Well, hello, welcome back everyone to part number 2 of our mastermind sessions. I tell you, the first one was great. We got a chance to kind of talk about, why we need to become a part of a mastermind. And we got a chance to have some intermingling with our main speaker, Jerry Watkins, which was great, and kind of give us some background about where they come from and how he got ideas. But he's getting ready now to put down some real strong principles, him and his partner, getting ready to put down some real possible principles on how they actually got to that point. This part, if there's any of you that really have some special questions you want to ask, things like that, feel free to get involved, to chat with us, and that way I'll ask the questions for you, because it's so important that you get something out of this also. So many of you that are coming with different questions and ideas, as I said, let me just take a moment to give you their bio for a moment. Now, the first one is Jerry. Now, you heard Jerry talk a little bit a few minutes ago about his business and how he started off with just a $3,000 a month business, and then ended up with 150 employees, 6 salons of over $1 million each. I mean, and then how he transitioned even from that over to now being a business coach that's now coaching other people to become multi-million-dollar businesses for the kingdom's sake, and really help people to become who God put in their heart to be. So they're coming up in this next session. Number one, let me give you Jerry's intro here. Jerry Watkins here. Again, we talked about a few minutes ago about the salons, but now God has raised him up now as someone. He is an executive self-concept coach with over 30 years of real business success and expertise in team leadership, personal transformation, strategic learning. He works with high-performing CEOs and business owners to deliver total transformation, elevating how they lead themselves and how they lead their teams using advanced tools like NLP and behavior change strategies. Jerry helps leaders eliminate internal barriers, drive cultural alignment, and make success a habit at every level of business. And also his partner, we call him Coach Q, praise God, but he's known as a trilingual master mindset coach, international speaker, and co-author of Think on These Things on Amazon, #1 bestseller, using his signature methodologies alongside the most effective subconscious modalities for deep, lasting transformation. Coach Q helps clients elevate their confidence while releasing the negative emotions and limiting beliefs that keep them stuck. He has trained under some of the top 1% coaches in the world and has personally conducted more than 1,000 breakthrough sessions with business owners, executive athletes, and other high-performing performers. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you this great man, these two great men, these great two coaches who you're going to get some things out of. So push it forward, share it, click it, praise God, subscribe. Let's go to Jerry and Quince. This next meeting. God bless you.
Good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in. My name is Jerry.
And I'm Quentin, Coach Q.
Yes. And I'm getting to work with my favorite pastor in the world and my favorite business person in the world is Coach Q and Dr. Craig. And so we talked about how we wanted to approach this 3 days. And we're not just business owners, we're both very serious about our faith as well. So this gives us, we love talking to people that are God-minded Christians. And so this gives us an opportunity to really share our heart and how it all works together. So let me just give you a quick background about myself, or what stands out for me. I know Dr. Craig introduced me a bit, but I'm coming from the viewpoint of a business owner. I own 6 salons. And so what I'm going to be sharing is how this impacted me to be able to go from a boy bootleg barber, I like to say, if you know what that is, you probably do, to having the opportunity to meet a world-class salon owner, Bruno Moscolo, and how he mentored us into a $6 million company. And I'm going to be sharing with you things that I learned through that experience.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm Coach Q. My experience and why I'm qualified, I'll say, to be here and talk to you is I've been fortunate and blessed enough to coach on a pretty high level. I coached under one of the top 1% coaches in the world doing high performance coaching. So I personally coached over 1,000 sessions with business owners, celebrities, athletes, and other high performers, pretty much anyone in between. So this has been over 10 years that I've been professionally coaching in this field. Wrote a book, as Dr. Craig mentioned, and became a #1 bestseller. So it's just all about growth and development. So we're excited to be here and share some of our expertise with you.
Yes. Yeah. And we position ourselves, I guess, we're trainers, leadership trainers, but our premier product is more around subconscious mindset work. And so that's how we position ourselves, which you may or may not think it has anything to do with faith. I know one of the ladies that I went to church with for years, she went through one of our training programs, and she said, man, if Christians understood this better, they would really understand what God is talking about. Okay? And I feel that same way about it. In fact, I want to say this first presentation and information we're going to share with you is really about how to renew your mind. You know, it's really what it boils down to. You'll be able to use this in order to renew your mind.
Definitely, definitely. And I'll say that it starts, and we'll get more into this, but it really starts with your focus, right? I run into people all the time, you know, and you've probably heard people say, man, I have bad luck, right? And one of the things that I say is you probably do, because that's what you're focused on. And what you focus on, you're going to feel. What you focus on, you're going to get. So it's about what you focus on. That's one of the main keys. If you guys don't get anything else, what are you focusing on? That's going to give you your results.
And, you know, we talk about focus, renewing your mind. Well, in order to do that, you first got to be able to catch your mind. You got to be able to catch these thoughts. So we're going to be talking about, and actually we're going to give you an opportunity. If you're willing to stay with us tonight, at least you guys in the room, we're going to give you an opportunity to learn a process of how to catch and become aware of what you're thinking. Because we know, again, scripture-wise, it says, catch every thought that stands against the word of God. And I would say that stands against your dreams. I think they're in unison, right? Yes. And cast those things down. But you first have to be aware of those thoughts. And that's where most of us miss the concept.
Exactly. So you're going to hear us say this over and over again throughout this presentation, because it's one of our favorite quotes, and I think it's one of the truest quotes I've ever heard, is until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you'll call it fate.
Yeah, that's definitely at the heart of what we're talking about. And what we're going to share with you, obviously in 40 minutes, we can't share with you everything it takes to do what you need to do. But I'll tell you, we're going to share the heart of it. And if you get this part right, you'll be well off and on your way. But obviously, if you want to know more, you can always reach out to us. Our website will be up here, and you guys in the room, we're right here, right? So, you know, you can reach out to us, and we'll give you opportunities on how you can work with us going forward, where we can get much more hands-on with you. I like to think of us as the most hands-on coaches in the world. You know, we're going to hold your hand and make it through that process. So as Q said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it's going to rule your life, and you're going to think it's fate. This is how it's supposed to go, and that's never the case. So many years ago, Yeah, I guess it's been many years now. It's amazing how fast time goes. But most of us in here are old enough to remember the Great Recession. Yes. Not the Depression, but the recession. Almost depression. Right? And at the time, we had 6 salons. We were doing $6 million a year. We lost 2/3 of our revenues. So you can only imagine. It was, every day was a problem-solving day. And we had to figure out ways to stop the hemorrhaging. And we thought the way to do that was to fix the problems. And that's pretty much the way most of us approach problems, right? We fix the problem. And one day, Fashion Square Mall, many of you guys have either been to Phoenix or lived in Phoenix. That's interesting in this group. Well, Fashion Square Mall, one of the best malls in the country, I'm sure. I was leaving the food court from a problem-solving session, and God said something to me that actually started me on this particular journey and where I'm at in coaching right now. Changed everything, and I didn't know what it meant. I just knew that it was important at the time. And I knew it was God because I didn't even know what it meant. So I knew it wasn't me thinking wisely that day. What he said was this. He says, Jerry, the problem isn't the problem. The problem isn't the problem. The fact that you're focused on the problem is the problem. And I said, I don't know what that means, but I know it's an answer to my problem. And that's where things changed for me.
Yeah. So why is that a problem, right? Why is that a problem? Well, it's because of what I was talking about a moment ago, is whatever you focus on expands, right? Whatever you focus on multiplies. That's why when somebody says, I have bad luck, I'm clumsy, right? I never do anything right, that expands, right? They're looking through those lenses. So as a person thinketh, so are they, right? As a man thinketh, as a woman thinketh, so are they. So what should we focus on instead, right? That's the question. I heard many years ago, and it stuck with me, and I think this is the secret to life. I know Jerry and I are always saying it, and that's focus on what you want and only on what you want, right? And once again, we're going to keep saying this, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you'll call it fate, right? So why is our focus so important? So our focus is so important because whatever you focus on, you'll find evidence, right? You'll find evidence for it, and that evidence will cause you to believe it, right? And what you believe is going to seem true to you, whether it's true or not. So we actually did a Google search, okay? We did a Google search, and Google mirrors the way your mind works, and I'm going to show you how. You ready? So we did a Google search, and we said, what does it take to be poor, right? Versus what does it take to be rich, all right? And totally different list of information, right? So some of the things that came out when we put in what does it take to be rich. Put money in the stock market, okay? Don't spend money on stupid stuff. All right, I'm still working on that, right? Save money for retirement. Invest in real estate. Avoid purchases that are likely to depreciate rapidly, right? And I love this one. Stay rich, right? That's a good one, right? But what about the other side? The other side, how do you be poor, right? How do you stay in poverty? So don't get an education came up on that Google search. Borrow lots of money. Go to jail was on there, right? Ain't going to be making too much in there. Develop an addiction. Stay in a dead-end, low-paid job. Avoid work altogether. It also said be born in a third world country. So you might say, okay, well, I don't ask Google to fail in business or fail in life, right? If you ever ask yourself why this is not working in anything, right? That's exactly what you're asking your mind to do, is pull up that second Google search. because the power of your questions direct your life, really. So are we asking the right questions even, right? So you're asking your mind to fail when you ask why is this not working? Because the focus is not working, right? What you focus on multiplies. So how we fix the problem? So without focusing on the problem, here's what you do. What do you want instead? Pretty simple, right? What do you want instead of that problem? Remember, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you'll call it fate. So we got to switch it up.
Yeah, because that's the real challenge. We all are smart enough to know when we hear ourselves saying, I can't, we can deal with that sometimes, not always. But it's really the unconscious stuff that's going on. How many times you're thinking in your mind that I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill, or I don't know how I'm going to get this business off the ground. You're asking your unconscious mind to give you that, feed that back to you. It's like, yeah, I don't know either. That's a real problem, isn't it? Because you're not looking for what you want. It may sound like a simple concept and intuitive, but most of us miss it. I catch myself. I know this, I teach this, I'm really good at it most of the time, but I will catch myself, and it might be months. I realize, gosh, I have been focusing on what I don't want. I have been focused on what I don't want. In fact, going back to the mall, we had 2 salons in Fashion Square at one time. And when this event came up, the Great Recession, it really was providing a lot of problems, but there was a lot of opportunities that we were missing. Why? Because we got absorbed in the problem. When you're losing the amount of monies we're losing, and that's what happens a lot of times, you get sucked into it so fast, you go into a panic, and you're just off to this long marathon problem-solving session. But I was fortunate enough, one of the presidents of Tony and Guy called me one day. She says, Jerry, you're going to have the same problem. Well, let me back up a little bit. We got a letter from the mall and said, hey, we're going to increase your rent because you're no longer making the revenues you were making, and that was an unusual thing in the contract. And if you don't allow us to increase your rent, we're going to terminate your lease. And so I'm thinking, okay, just another problem. We, just get in line. We got a lot of problems, so just get in line. And so, we were worried, but we had so many things to worry about. It was hard to worry about one thing. And so as the months went on, she called me and said, Jerry, you're going to have the same problem at the next salon because you're going to be in that same position. She said, you should consider closing when the leases, when you get in that situation, you close the one salon and keep the other one open. Now, I was so focused on the problems, I didn't see this whole opportunity after that letter. This was a great opportunity, but I couldn't see it because I was focused on the problems. But she interrupted me enough to where I was like, oh my gosh. I says, we're not closing that salon when we get there. We're closing this other salon now. This is something we've always wanted to do. We were missing what we said we'd figured for years. Let's merge these salons. We don't need 2 salons at this stage. Let's merge them, but we'll wait till the lease is up. Oh, they're saying they'll close one for us? Oh, the lease can be up. And when we caught on to that, it launched us right back into profit, because now we were running 2 salons. We had a chance to merge one salon into 2, which they didn't know we could do. We were able to do it, and we went immediately into profits. My personal income went up bigger than it had ever been. And so this is what we mean by when you focus on the problem, you see more of the problem. We just kept seeing, but just that one little instant, when we started focusing on what we wanted, we seen inside of the problem was the answer to all of our questions. And it was just an easy answer, just check box C, please close the salon. We're not paying you any more rent. And they were traumatized. They were like, are you serious? Very. Please don't change your mind. That's all we ask. Yeah. So the challenge is when you're focused on the problem, it can be distracting. That's what keeps us from focusing on what we want. We just get so caught up, you know. And also what happens is hard to focus when you don't know what you want. And many times that's the real challenge. Most of us know exactly what we want, what we don't want. But you ask somebody what they want. I used to do this with clients all the time. Somebody came in with a complaint, and I would let them go on and go on. And when I got tired of listening, I say, so what do you want me to do? They didn't know. That would end the conversation. Because most of us never have really considered what we want, and that's often why we don't get what we want, you know. And another reason is that we don't believe we can have it. That's why we don't focus on what we want. We're much more likely to believe our limitations than what we can have. So there's a lot of trauma around focusing on what you want. You know, I've tried it before and I failed at it, which is always strange to me. If you tried it before and you failed at it, that means you've got some experience. You could have learned some lessons, so that really doesn't make sense that you would, it's more likely you would succeed at it going forward. So yeah, so that's what focus on the problems. But let me ask you this. I know we're all serious believers, so don't get this wrong. But I want to ask you, matter of fact, let me pop it up for you on the PowerPoint. Why do we believe what we believe? Why do we believe what we believe? And I'm not talking about why do we believe things like God is real and that the earth is round, rocks are hard. I'm talking about why do we believe what we believe about who we are, what we can do, and what we can have, what others can do, be, and have. Why do we believe what we believe? Well, it's a really simple answer. And it might seem to, it's real simple because we believe it. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this presentation sharing with you. What you believe about what you can have, what you can do, and what you can be, what others can have, do, and be, you make it all up. It's not based on any reality. And people will argue with me. I had a client in a group, and she said, Jerry, because I told her you make 99.9% of it up. She said, Jerry, you really be that much? I said, I'm giving you grace. You really make pretty much all of it up. And I'm going to get ahead of this real quick. People say, well, how do you know that? I know it because you don't have a crystal ball and you don't know the future, so you have to be making it up. How could you know what you can be? You have to make it up. You don't know. How do you know what I can be? You shouldn't know what I can be because you don't even know you like that. So you surely don't know somebody else like that. So you make it all up. And this is what we're going to share with you the rest of the presentation, because once you get this, it can flip your whole life around once you realize all the things you're worried about, all the things you believe in, you're literally making them up.
Yes. So this is what happens. We're going into this mental search, right? This mental search. And this is why beliefs are so important, right? Because when we believe something, our mind searches inside and out to find evidence to support what we believe, right? Inside and out to find evidence to support what we believe. Then we find a way to make it come true, right? Or at least seem true for us, right? We're looking through those lenses once again, right? This is why our beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies, right? The question isn't, is what I believe true? The question is, does it help me or hinder me? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. That right there is really important. It's not, is what I believe true? Is this belief helping me or hindering me? That's what we should be asking ourselves. And like Jerry mentioned, most, and we're giving you grace here, right? Most of what we believe, we make up, right? So why not make it up so we win? Right? So, as I mentioned earlier, wrote a book. This was 2016 when it got published. And interesting enough, my mom and I wrote this book together. So we started writing this book 5 years prior. 5 years prior. And it took 5 years because we had no idea how to write a book. Never written a book before. Didn't know any authors, didn't know any editors, didn't know anyone in the industry, right? At that time. So all we had was the belief, right, that we could write a book, right? We had been impacted by this type of work, so we wanted to keep passing it on. And we just started writing. The only thing we knew how to do, we just started writing. No idea about editors, publishing, nothing, not even really how to put the book together, right? Just started writing. And the book just transformed, and it kind of took on a life of its own. It looked totally different from what we thought it would look like. And really, what happened was we just had the belief. We had the belief. We finished the book 5 years later, right? We finished the book, but it still wasn't published. It's on a computer, right? It's on computer. We finished the book, and we're like, okay, well, we still don't know about publishing, still don't know anybody, still no connections. We ended up going to a conference, and during one of the breaks, I met a guy. He wasn't even sitting by me. He came down there. They had music on. People were dancing and things like that. And he came and sat by me during the break. And that guy who I started talking to, we ended up opening up, and he said, "What's your goals?" and these things like that. And I told him, we're writing a book. We just finished. And that guy told me, I know a few publishers. And he connected me with the publisher. And our book was done probably 2 months after that, 2 or 3 months after that. And that's just the power of belief, right? Yep. We saw it. So believe so that you win, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's very important, that you don't, there's some people tell me, well, I'm going to quit making stuff up. You can't. That's how we're built. Their mind is going to do it. So as Q said, the trick is focus on what you want and make up things where you win. Since it's all being made up, and you might say, but that's just play. No, that's what the Bible says. As a woman thinketh, as a man thinketh, as a person makes things up, so shall it be, whatever you make up. So make it up where you win. Now I want to show you another level of this. We're gonna get scientific here in a minute. Q's gonna get scientific. I'm the story guy. He's the science guy. Okay, tonight. This is a city. This is a picture of where I'm from, Dayton, Ohio. I'm very proud of Dayton, Ohio. And when you look at Dayton, that little yellow, that salmon-colored street, that's running through like downtown Dayton area. That's like somewhere around Main Street. I'm going to give you a picture of Dayton. And me and my mother and sister were talking about it just yesterday. We used to have what's called Downtown Dayton Day, because downtown used to be the mall, right? And my mother informed me this morning, she said it happened twice a year. I didn't know that. I thought it was once a year. I was a kid. But I remember you could buy a shirt for $1. My sister was talking today about things you could buy to eat. I'm like, I never noticed what we could buy to eat. I was down there shopping. But it was really two of the most exciting days each year. And if you look up over to the right, you'll see an area, it's called the Oregon District. It's one of the coolest areas. If I was gonna live in Dayton again, it's where I would live. It's got the, what any other city has. It's got the condominiums upstairs, the stores down below, and really cool restaurants. Red Brick Road used to be the seedy area of town, the bookstores and all of that. Now it's the cool area of town. And over by the river here, it's Caroline Park. I can't talk about what we used to do there, okay? I used to. I'm just going to leave that part out. But we have great memories of Caroline Park, when I was young. I was a teenager, remember? The point of this is, I've told you some of the memorable things of my childhood growing up in Dayton. Could you tell somebody that you know Dayton now? No, you couldn't. You know a little bit about Dayton, but you won't know Dayton till you walk on those red big brick streets and walk through those stores and hang out at Caroline Park. That's the only way you really get to know an area. In other words, this is a map of Dayton. It represents Dayton, but it is not Dayton. It simply represents Dayton. In fact, it's like a menu on a restaurant. You see the pictures of the hamburgers and the French fries, but those aren't the hamburgers and the French fries. They represent them. If you don't think they are, try eating the menu and see if there's a difference or not. There's a real difference, right? It's not the food. It represents the food. And you might be wondering, why is this important? What does this have to do with anything, especially business success or any kind of success? Well, when you start imagining and believing the thoughts in your head, I need you to understand they're not reality. They represent what you believe to be reality, but they're not based in any reality. They're just representations of misconceptions, really, of what you believe reality to be. They're not based on anything real. No more than the pictures on the hamburger, no more than that map is Dayton. Your thoughts are not, but we treat them like they are. We have a thought, I don't know if, I think I'm gonna fail, I don't think this is gonna work. And as Q mentioned, it becomes self-fulfilling. We start responding to it and moving towards it or away from it, if though it's really something real and it's just a thought. You might even think, well, my memories are, and I failed at this before, a memory is just a memory. That's no more reality either. It was not reality the next day. It's gone, it's in the past. It's just a thought. And so it's very important that we understand that we're making what we perceive to be our future, we're making it up. And we're making it up based upon these thoughts that are not based in any reality whatsoever. God, in fact, says this, I think it's Corinthians 1, or 1 Corinthians, I'm sounding like somebody else now. I won't say. Yes. It's 1 Corinthians 13:12. It says, for now we see through a glass darkly. For me, that's what God's relating to. We don't see reality as people. We see through a dark glass. And that's the spiritual understanding of that. Q's going to show you why this is really true at a deeper level than you can imagine, that you are literally not seeing reality. And that's why God said, don't lean to your own understanding, because you're missing so much of what's really going on. It scares you when you really get it.
Yes, we are missing so much of what's going on. And just off of your point, even they've already proven your memories really can't be trusted. Your memories are almost always inaccurate in some way. Yeah, so really interesting. So this is called the NLP model of communication. You don't have to too much worry about the name. I know it just sounds like a bunch of words, right? But here's how this works. We connect with the world through our five senses, right? We know that. We connect through our five senses. And let's say there's these events that happen in our life, right? Winning the lottery, first day at work, 9/11 attacks, right? Okay, these events happen. We see the world through our five senses, and that VAKO is visual, audio, auditory, kinesthetic, right? Olfactory, which is smell, right? Gustatory, taste, right? The five senses, we're familiar with that. We take in the world through those five senses. That's how we understand anything in this world, right? But here's the thing. We're taking in at any given time 2 million bits per second of information, right? And what happens is we're distorting, we're deleting, and we're generalizing that information, right? Deleting, distorting, and generalizing that information. But here is the part that really trips us out, right? Out of 2 million bits of information per second, we're only able to really take in 128 bits, right? And a phone number, let's say, is 7 bits, so you can get an idea of what that is. Okay, so only 128 bits. So a visual we like to use is, imagine there's a dump truck full of toothpicks, right? And you're holding your hand out like this, and the dump truck pours the toothpicks out on you. This is how much information you're actually able to comprehend or process, right? So the 2 million bits, that's everything. What you're seeing, hearing, feeling, the colors, you didn't notice, let's just say you're back up against whatever you're sitting on until I just brought it up right now. Now you can feel it, right? But your subconscious mind is taking in all of that, right? It's taking in all of that information, 2 million bits. So that affects your state, right? Which affects your physiology. And then your behavior, because your thoughts make you feel a certain way, right? We think a thought, then we feel a certain way. That affects our emotions. Then our emotions make us behave a certain way, right? And then our behavior over time is going to give us the results that we're getting in every area of our lives, right? So choose those 128 bits wisely, what you're focusing on.
So would you say, what percentage is 128 out of 2 million? It's probably not 99. It's not probably the 1 point. You just basically, and how do you choose those bits? You choose them based upon what's important to you, your values, and you choose them on what you believe. The truth can be right in front of your face, but because you don't believe it, you pick this over here that you believe. But that's not reality. All of this is going on, but you just pick out what you believe to be true, whether it benefits you, hinders you, or helps you. You pick out what you believe. Out of 2 million things, you can have any life you want to have, in other words. We're choosing, as Q said, choose them correctly, choose them carefully, choose what you want to believe. And that's what the whole idea, when you really get that, and I'm sure you're getting it intellectually right now, but really, you really get that down in your spirit that you're making stuff up, it sets you free. And you start realizing, I'm going to choose what I want to believe. I'm not going to just believe what did Q say earlier? Wise people don't believe, they don't consider whether the belief is true or false, because they already know they're making it up. So why consider whether it's true or false? They say, does it help me or hinder me? Does it help me to think, oh, it's going to be hard to build this business? Nope. So we're kicking that one to the curb. You get to choose once you understand. And once you have that freedom, it's still a lot of work, but now you have a fighting chance when you're choosing. And life isn't, you're not living on this automatic where things are just popping up and you're going through life nice and casual and you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's going to be rough. That's going to be this. You're not even aware. You're just going through life. And one girl told me this when we were training. She said, Jerry, until I got that, my thoughts were running around in my head like little bad kids in the street, doing whatever they wanted to do. She said that was the most liberating thing, to get control of my thought life. And it's more than telling you about it. In fact, hopefully we'll get a chance to take you through a process tonight where you can start, if you do it for 3 months, you'll get control of your thought life. And it is the most empowering thing I've ever done, to be conscious. I'm much more conscious of what I was thinking. Definitely. But to give you when we were in the mall, before we went to the mall, actually, we had a salon down called Regent Street. We were down the street on Oak. And me and my 2 partners didn't have many clients today. So let's go visit the mall, see if we can hustle up some clients. We get down there and we run into a salon that was empty. It used to be. And you can imagine 3 young, aggressive business owners, salon owners. We were like little kids in a candy store. We were all over these people's glass, trying to look around corners and fingerprints everywhere. And we were just going. And all of a sudden, the how would you say it? I can't remember how I used to say it, but the naysayer showed up in the form of Jerry. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, guys, wait a minute, hold up for a minute. Let's not get too far ahead of this. How much you think this costs? And we looked at each other and almost simultaneously said, we don't even want to know. And with that, we put our tails between our legs and went back to our little salon for 5 years before we dealt with that. Now, I've already told you, we had 2 salons eventually in that mall. This had no basis in reality. And what this is what makes it crazy, and this is what focusing on what you don't want will do for you. We didn't even know what the rent was when we were scared. How are you scared of something you don't even know what it is? You haven't even checked it out. We were scared, and it was a total lie. It was not based in any reality, because 5 years later, we opened a salon. Another year after that, we opened another salon, both doing over $1 million a year. But we were basing that we wasted 5 years based upon something we believed in our head to be true. And you have no idea how this can shift you, and how important working with your unconscious mind, taking control of your thought life. This isn't just psychology and all of this. God talks about all of this. He told us catch every thought and hold it captive that stands against his word, and cast it down, catch them all. And so that's why we started this by saying to you, this is about renewing your mind. You use the same concept, because it's not just about your business, but it's about also your spiritual life. A lot of Christians are thanking God in the morning, believing God in the morning, and all day long, their thoughts are running around like little bad kids in the street, doing whatever they want to do. And I've been there, and I go there sometimes. None of us beyond it, but I thank God. Before I didn't know I could even catch. I never would catch him. I might be there and just hopefully the grace of God will do something. But now, even when I get caught up in a trap, I'll wake up one morning and say, "Oh my gosh, I have been focused for the last month in this area on what I don't even want, and I'm wondering why it's persisting." And so it's very important. So the goal isn't to have success. As coaches, we see the goal is to become the person that can have success. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. That's the real goal, is who are you becoming, is what it is, to have the successful life. How do we grow to the next level? You have to continually challenge and change and get better. And you start the process by applying what we're talking about today. You start the process by that. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it's going to rule your life. This is a very important thing to get. When I first heard that quote, I didn't really know what it meant. What do you mean, until we make the unconscious conscious? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it's literally ruling your life. That's why God said, catch those thoughts, become aware. We call it revelation in the body of Christ, right? You got to get a revelation. You got to see what's going on. Well, there's a way to do that, where you can become aware of what your mind is thinking. And we know there had to be, because God told us to catch every thought that stands against.
Yep. So I know we all want to go to the next level, right? We all want to go to the next level, but here's the key. We can't just go to the next level, right? We don't get to go to the next level. We have to grow to the next level. That's the key.
Yes. Am I going in the right direction?
You have a break, or you got to follow Jerry?
Yes, we're just wrapping up. The most powerful process to correct your programming is programming your mind's GPS. And that's what we're going to be talking about, or taking you through an exercise on how to do that. Learning to make the unconscious conscious is our goal. We have a process called observational thinking, and we're going to take you through that process in the next hour. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hallelujah. All right.